Welcome back to Everyday Economics, the podcast that should learn about the economic world happening around you every day. I'm your host, Chris Krug, CEO of the 501c3 nonprofit, nonpartisan Franklin News Foundation. Everyday Economics is a production of America's Talking Network. You can subscribe to all of our podcasts at americastalking.com. Support Everyday Economics by making a tax-deductible charitable contribution. You can click in the show description to do that. We're recording this episode on Friday, July 12th. And joining me as always, Dr. Orphe Divounguy, PhD economist. Dr. O, have been enjoying your week ahead column at thecentersquare.com. I think it's insightful. It gives people something to keep an eye on. And again, that appears every Monday at thecentersquare.com. What do you have on your dance card for the coming week?
Yeah, so we're going to see this week, we're going to see retail sales. We'll get home builder confidence from the National Association of Home Builders. They publish this thing every month. We'll have the state of new construction, housing starts, building permits, published by the Census Bureau. And of course, we're going to have a couple of Fed presidents that are going to go out there and probably talk about inflation and what we saw lately. So remember, a couple of reports came out already this month that were really, the big reports were the employment numbers. Employment grew again, but the big thing here in the employment numbers is that a lot of the increase in employment comes from an increase in labor supply, right? And the number of workers that are coming into the labor force. And that's helped ease wage growth, right? But basically, labor demand has been very subdued. And it's declined a lot, in fact. And then the fact that interest rates remain so elevated, so high, means that potentially a bigger decline in labor demand could start to cause layoffs to increase. The unemployment rate has already moved quite substantially, right? It was, I think, 3.6% last year. It's now 4.1%. And so there's been a big increase in the unemployment rate. Part of it, again, is more workers coming onto the labor force wanting to work. Part of it is the decline in labor demand, causing workers to stay unemployed longer, to search for longer. So we're in a backdrop. We're in a situation where we have higher unemployment rate and wage growth easing. Wage growth is now down to 3.9% year over year, down from 4.1% in May. And I expect that number to continue to ease, to continue to come down. So what's happening? What happens when the labor market looks like this? When the labor market starts to slow down, is consumers' expected income, right, starts to fall. Consumers realize, workers realize, well, I cannot switch to another higher paying job right away, so I'm going to stay put. The unemployment rate's inching higher, so it might take me longer to find a job, so I can't do anything. Right. And then you have more people waiting on the sidelines to be able to find a job. So the unemployment duration increases. And so expected income falls. And when expected income falls, consumers tend to pull back. They tend to save a higher share of their incomes. And as consumers save a higher share of their incomes, of course, inflation falls, right? We're spending less. So the pressure on prices abates. And then you can get into kind of this kind of downward spiral. Well, we're not there yet, but hopefully we don't quite get to a point where consumers hold back so much that prices start to fall and we get into this kind of deflationary spiral. So we're not there yet. We're seeing disinflation. We're seeing prices easing, and that's good. But retail sales are expected to show some softness again, right? Retail sales increased only 0.1% last month. And so I expect them to continue. I expect retail sales to continue to show some easing and maybe even a small decline in June. Home builder confidence. Well, guess what? Those same consumers could be potentially affected by the higher interest rates, right? And as they pull back, builders are likely to see less foot traffic.
Well, we're going to hear from builders on Tuesday morning. We're taping this on Friday. On the calendar for next week, for Monday, July 15th specifically, Fed Chairman Jerome Powell is going to speak. What do you think he's going to have to say? How do you think he's going to process the information that you and I and everyone else is looking at?
I think he's going to repeat what he told Congress. And essentially, it's kind of, he's playing it safe. But he has access to the data. He can see what's going on. he's going to play it safe, and he's going to say, that we have to make sure that we bring the inflation genie back in the bottle. And so he's going to continue to play it safe until they feel they have enough evidence to cut interest rates. I mean, some people are starting to talk about interest rates cuts right here this month. I don't believe that's going to be the case. I think really the door is open now for interest rates cuts in September. And again, we have to continue to see the easing in the data that's going to come out in July, but also in August. And so we get retail sales on Tuesday, and I think we're going to see some softness there too. We get the home builder confidence index. It's already in contraction territory because the surprise in mortgage rates in April, the rapid surge in mortgage rates in April really caused the housing demand to pull back a little bit. Given, in the spring, people go out and buy homes, but this year we had a bit of a pullback, and we saw a big increase in housing inventory. The inventory started to accumulate. And so builders are likely to want to ease back a little bit and sell the homes that they already have on the market and the homes that they're currently building, because they have a ton of homes under construction, before adding more supply to the market.
Well, that makes sense. That makes all the sense in the world. I mean, that's logical, right? Let me ask you this, something that's on the calendar for the coming week. On Wednesday afternoon, the Fed's beige book comes out. So first of all, what is the beige book, and why should anybody care about it?
Very important. You have Federal Reserve banks in various what they call districts across the country. And that beige book basically gives you an idea of all the data and research that these banks have accumulated over the health of their local districts, the economy. And so you get to see kind of a regional picture of what's really going on the ground and how the economy is faring on the ground across the country. And so very important. A lot of research goes into it, a lot of information, and that information is helpful for FOMC members in their process, in their forecast, in their thinking. And so I like to take it. I think it's important to pay attention to the beige book for sure.
Well, I mean, it's the economy never sleeps. Lots of interesting stuff coming on. Make sure that you take a look at Dr. Orphe Divoungui's column each week, the Everyday Economics column at thecentersquare.com, and get ahead of the game. Dr. O, thanks so much. For Orphe Divounguy, this has been Chris Krug. Subscribe to Everyday Economics and dozens of other quality podcasts at americastalking.com.